In the last video with my 1980 Puch Maxi, we tore the bike down to its frame, completely disassembled the engine, and rebuilt it from the ground up with stronger and better parts, all with the end goal of making this bike the ultimate two-stroke moped. The journey continues today, the engine fully rebuilt, and the frame now fortified and stronger than before. The bike is ready for the final touches, and by the end of this video, it'll be ripping on the pavement. But before that happens, we still have a lot of work to do. Brother, it's so good. I'm freaking hype on this thing, man. All right, let's finish it. Wiring, throttle, brakes, lights, rear wheel, clean everything up. We're in the final stretches now. Believe it or not, the engine was the biggest hurdle to get over. Now it's just all the small stuff. It'll be interesting, it'll be fun, building the bike from the ground up, new wiring harness and everything. It's in a good spot though. So in the last video, we got the engine running, but there are still a lot of things missing. So the first thing I wanted to install was all the new controls. The first of which was a new throttle, because the one that's on there is a super cheap Amazon throttle that was sketchily put together and definitely not sufficient. But before I did the new throttle, I wanted to fix up the master cylinder and install that on the bars, as it had to go on first. On top of fresh controls, I'm going to be installing brand new switches for the lights and the kill switch on this bike, just to make everything fresh and modern. So the new throttle I got for this moped is actually a Domino racing throttle, which is a quarter turn short pull throttle, because on a moped, it's basically either wide open throttle or no throttle at all. I'm super excited to get this Domino throttle hooked up, because I don't know if you guys have ever used like a super cheap Chinese made throttle like this, but these things are just so unrefined. They're not smooth at all. Stuff breaks like the second day you use it, and it just honestly makes the feel of like riding the moped not fun. So this is like a dirt bike quality race throttle, you know, which is just gonna make the feel of the bike so much better. These grips are nice and soft. So I'm gonna get this throttle cable hooked up to here, and then we're gonna throw it on the bike. With the throttle all hooked up and working properly, I moved on to the left side of the bars to do all the controls and grips. For this build, I'm going to be completely rewiring the moped. As you can see, the existing wiring harness was just basically a rat's nest of wires, and I want to do brand new LED front and rear lights anyways. So in order to integrate these new switches, new lights, and just clean everything up, I'm going to be completely rewiring the harness. The nice part about the electrical system on this bike is that I'm using a power dynamo stator, which actually pushes out a lot more power than the stock stator, which will let me run these brighter LED lights. Last night, I started this thing up, was testing the lights out and everything. I've been thinking about this wiring all day, man. Trying to get it right. Now this is gonna be annoying to get back in here. Come on, bro. Thank you. In there, swimwear, tighten it up. Wiring is actually kind of fun. I mean, this is a moped, so the electronics are really simple on this thing, so it makes it a little bit more fun and playful to wire than if it was like a bike with actual electronics. It's actually really fun to mess around with this stuff and try and get it to work. Kind of racks your brain a little bit, hooking up wiring and making a harness. this. It's pretty fun. Where's black going to? Oh, black's going straight there. What the? Okay, one more test. I think for the 8th time I had it hooked up wrong. Whoa, I had no carburetor on there. What the frick, dude? Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. Hopefully that didn't do any damage. I'm a silly goose. Everything is tucked away. Pretty much as good as I'm gonna get it, I think. Now we gotta clean up here by the headlight, and we should be good. Man, that's pretty clean. One little bundle up top, cleaned on the side, all the way back to the engine over here. Looking good. I like it. So we got the running light and the brake light, as you see. In, headlight, switch off. Headlight goes off, but the tail light still works. Kill switch, working good. Man, let's go. About time. Doing that wiring was literally like 4 hours of work that probably just happened for you guys in 30 seconds, but it is what it is. Still gonna clean it up a little bit more up here. But the wiring is looking crispy. Still got that long throttle cable on there. Definitely need a shorter one. But finally, wiring is done. That is exciting. I think I'm gonna clean up because now I just got wires scattered everywhere. Take this exhaust off and start working on this. Clean up everything in the back so we can at least get it to a rolling chassis. Maybe we could ride it around for a second, see if the clutch works, and then we can tackle that rear end and the seat.
So it definitely wasn't easy, but the bike finally has brand new controls, brand new lights, and a new wiring harness. Through the power of trial and error, anything can be done. So from the years of this bike sitting and being abused, a lot of the metal parts just look really bad, rusted up, and ugly. So I wanted to take those off first and clean it up so that when it gets put back on the bike, everything looks fresh. And to do the majority of the metal cleaning, I used these cleaning wheels from PrymeMX.com. They do a really good job of removing rust quickly and making parts look shiny and new again.
I definitely want to paint this bracket this time because it obviously surface rusts really easy if it's just raw metal. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and sand it up, throw some black spray paint on it, and just hang it overnight. Well, it's gonna be streaky, but black. That's cool. So scuffed. Oh man. All right, easy peasy. Gonna hang it here for the night. We'll see what it looks like in the morning. With this rear brake bracket done, I think the goal for today is gonna be basically getting this thing rolling. So I'm gonna fit up the rear wheel, hopefully get the exhaust bent a little bit so it fits better, bolt that on the bike. And then from there, the last thing to do is gonna be the rear rack and the seat. So we're getting close. It's been a long journey. We're slowly getting there. And honestly, stuff like this makes the bike just look so much more complete than how it was rusted out before, looking ugly. So I'm hype on this. Let's get this rear wheel on.
With the rear wheel on, I wanted to get the brakes situated, so I went ahead and installed the front and rear calipers. The exhaust also had this old tab that I had only partially cut off, so I wanted to fully cut it off and get it all smooth.
All right, guys, the exhaust is mounted up. I'm glad that that's on. That's really the last like functional component of the engine and everything. So I think we're basically good to ride this thing around once we put a seat on it, which is super exciting.
Next, I'm going to install this Trail Tech temperature gauge, which basically just gets installed around the spark plug and tells you the temperature that the cylinder's running at. This is actually a really easy mod, and it's very important on these two-stroke mopeds because you definitely don't want them to run too hot or else they will blow up.
All right, so the plan. I need to get this brown seat here mounted to this bike. Unfortunately, the seat mounting bracket here does not work with the bolts that my bike has. Pretty much this seat is designed to slip on here and use one of these stock rear racks, just like this, to basically mount to. So this goes on here, and then that comes down there. And you're supposed to use this sandwich plate here, basically to just sandwich this on here and bolt to the seat. And to me, I mean, that would work fine, but for what I'm doing with this moped, it's pretty much built as a stunt moped, and I want this rack to be a little bit more robust. And also, I want to extend this rack out a good bit farther so that this thing will come out here and act as a scrape bar for doing wheelies. It looks a little bit ridiculous compared to the stock rack because it's just a bar sticking all the way out here, but I've seen people do it. I know it's strong enough to really like drag scrapes on. So I think having this bar all the way out here will be really good for doing wheelies, doing stunts, and it'll just be a lot stronger. I'll have a better mount for the seat. So yeah, that's the plan. But in order to do that, I need to fabricate something completely from scratch. I've never built anything like this. I'm not much of a fabricator, but I'm gonna give it my best shot.
So here we go, starting off my first fabrication project. I've never really done anything like this, but I figured this was a great opportunity to learn and try and recreate one of these stock PrymeMX racks using a lot stronger metal just to give the bike a more sturdy seat mount and also possibly as a stunt rack. So the first thing I did was get measurements and basically mock this up with cardboard so then I could use that to trace on the metal and cut out what I needed. And after a lot of cutting, drilling, and shaping, I was left with 2 starter brackets that I could build the rest of this rack off of. For the rest of the rack, I was basically just using metal stock and angle iron to cut the measurements that I needed, bend them, and mount them into place.
That went about as good as it could have gone, to be honest. Not perfectly even, but I never said any build I do is perfect, okay? It just works. I think.
Now that I had all the metal components bent up, cut out, and shaped as I needed, it was time for the fun part, which is installing them on the bike, mocking them up, and hopefully tacking everything into place.
This is basically my concept. I'm gonna have a flat piece here that the seat can mount to, and then we're basically gonna run these angled brackets off of here to create the width, and then angle iron down to the back to make the scrape bar. I'm gonna need to weld up something like this, and I've never really welded before, so I have no clue how it's gonna turn out, but it'll be a little bit of trial and error. We'll see how it goes, but I'll show you guys the progress along the way, and hopefully we can make something that's semi-functional at least. Bing.
As I've never welded before, I wanted to do a couple test welds to test my skills and see if I had what it takes. And I think I did, hopefully, at least a little bit. We'll see. I'm gonna get flamed in the comments, I already know. But with literally 5 minutes of welding practice under my belt, it was time to start welding the actual rack.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'd be amazed if those tacks held together. That was probably the freaking worst job I could have done. That one didn't even get on the right spot. I need to re-tack that to where it's actually like hitting the right freaking, oh gosh, dude. The settings are just off. There's no way they could be right. I mean, I got some tacks, but it was just feeding. It wasn't even like sparking up at a lot of the points. But I think I probably tacked everything together. Yeah, this is my first time welding, guys. So we're not gonna judge, okay? We're just gonna stick metal together, hopefully, and go from there, all right? This isn't a professional job. I'm just trying to get a little freaking thing mounted up so I can put the seat on and ride the bike, all right? That's all.
Now that everything was at least tacked, I could take the rack off of the bike and start finishing up the actual welds. Once the main frame of the rack was done, I started making up a mount for the tail light. And with the taillight assembly mounted, it was time to drill the holes for the seat. All right, guys, we got the moped at the lot. Finally, we're gonna test ride this thing. It's basically done. I think it's finally time to see how this thing rides. We got the new engine build. Pretty much everything is tidied up, and for the most part, guys, the moped is finished. I got this stunt rack on here that I recently built and installed. I'm still gonna paint it. It's just raw metal right now. Gonna clean it up a little bit, but I just wanna ride this thing and get this video out. So here it is, 1980 PrymeMX with an E50 one-speed engine. Just to go over kind of everything that I did to this bike, pretty much every bolt has been touched. It's got a Treatland 70cc high compression head, a power dynamo, ignition, Delordo 19mm PHBG carburetor. I got 1644 gearing, Proma exhaust, disc brakes all around, EBR front suspension. I got a quick pull throttle, custom electric system. You know, we really did the works on this thing. New seat. I got this new bar in the back to kind of sturdy everything up and, you know, let me scrape wheelies or do whatever I want to do. And I got the kickstart kit here from VDM Pook Parts. So this thing is a kickstart, no longer has pedals, LED lights in the front and back. This thing has been gone through completely, okay? Every single thing on this bike has been modified. And let me tell you something, I still can't figure it out, okay? It's still not how I want it to be. That's how these mopeds are. It's a never-ending project, but I've been having so many issues with the clutch on this engine now since I built it. I've been going back and forth, literally messing with this clutch for probably 4 weeks, like a full month. Trying new clutch springs, trying different stiffnesses, trying new clutch pads, and I have not been able to figure it out. So right now, I swapped it back to the stock clutch pads because I was trying to use the Dose Cycles claw pads, which have really good reviews, and everyone I've talked to says that that's like the go-to clutch. But for some reason, I can't dial those in. I can't get them to work how I want to. So I just put the stock pads back in for this test ride, but to be honest, they kind of feel bad. They're not letting the engine rev out how it should, so performance still has to be improved upon, but so far the engine has been running solid. Everything feels good. I think the bike is basically, other than the clutch, in its final form, you know? I've had it for a long time and I've been putting parts on it for forever, but this time around I made sure that everything was done right. The wiring, everything is clean. So yeah, let's go ahead and ride this thing, pull it out. Let's see what kind of top speeds we can get in this lot here. Private lot, out of the way of everything, so I can just let it rip and see how it goes. That's the plan. Easy peasy, runs like a dream. And I got a temp gauge on here now, right here, installed on the handlebars, so I know if I'm going over temps or if it's gonna blow up or anything like that, which is always a good thing to have. You don't want to just blow up your brand new bike on the first test ride, but I have done some heat cycles on this thing, just in testing it and testing the clutches and everything. I put a decent amount of time on it already, let it heat up all the way, let it cool down. So for once, you guys don't have to harp on me in the comments about breaking in a bike and letting it go through heat cycles and everything. I did that this time, okay? Leave me alone. I did it. So yeah, as you can see, the clutch is definitely grabbing a little too early, but it really hits power band about there. It's nothing crazy. I think the clutch is definitely the limiting factor here because it could rev higher for sure, but the clutch is kind of, you know, keeping it a little bit lower than where it wants to be.
Disc brakes work great. Disc brakes in the front are solid. This front suspension is great. I have a stunt cage back here now that I can literally put my foot on. I'm definitely not good enough to wheelie like that, but maybe someday, huh? I feel like circles are still my bread and butter on this thing because with these skinny tires, honestly, I'm not good at going straight, but I can take it in circles pretty easily. All right, let's get a little top speed on. I think I have an app on my phone that might be able to record top speed. Let's see if this thing works. Power band. Got a mild tuck going here. Says 34. Honestly, it kind of feels like 34. It doesn't feel that fast whatsoever. 34.2. Let's try that one more time. What do we got? 36.3. 36.3, guys, that's not that good, I can't lie. That's really not good at all. I'm blaming the clutch for sure.
So after the poor performance of the stock clutch, I wanted to go back to the Dose Cycles pads and give them a second try to hopefully get better performance out of this engine.
All right, guys, clutch adjusted. I think it pulls harder for sure. 'It hits a lot better. And you can hear it rev way higher right now, just off the takeoff. It's not being bogged down by the clutch. Engine RPMs are actually getting up there and it's picking up speed a lot better. We gotta do a test. Top speed test. Last top speed was 36.3. Gonna reset that. $35.2. 35.3. All right, we officially made it slower. I don't know what I'm doing, man. Come on. Well, I guess this thing's just gonna be in a state of constant improvement, which kind of makes sense. It's a moped. I'm still gonna mess with it. I'm still gonna work on the clutch, make the power hit a little bit better. But for now, I like it. Yes, sir. Let me know what you think about it, though. I know these bikes are not for everyone, but the people that like these bikes, it's a die-hard community. I'll tell you that much. Like, people are about these things, especially overseas, man. Kids grow up on these, but here in the US of A, we're pioneers out here. There's only a few of us that really like these things, but maybe for good reason. I mean, they kind of suck. I mean, like, so many issues with them. Fine-tuning. They're really finicky. They like to break. I don't know why I like them, to be honest, other than the fact that when they're working, they're great. They're super fun. So that's it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it and liked seeing me build this thing from the ground up and making it at least a semi-good bike. I'll dial it in the future. It just, you know, it takes time, okay? It takes time. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a YouTube mechanic. There's not that many videos on YouTube about these things, so I'm doing what I can, man. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.